A girl is screaming that she doesn't want to die as she plummets from the cliff. Her vision fades to black. She wakes up lying on the grass, wincing in pain. When she inspects her hand, she discovers a small cut, bleeding. She carefully checks her body, relieved to find no broken bones. Glancing up, she is startled by the enormous size of the moon and wonders where she is. Mitsuha walks through the field, trying to piece together what happened. She remembers arguing with 3 guys, hitting one of them, and then accidentally falling off the cliff. Mitsuha then recalls her family's funeral and the tragic accident that claimed her brother and parents. Sitting beneath a tree, she struggles to make sense of her situation. She remembers that below the cliff was a rocky shore and wonders what her brother Onii would think if he were in her place. Imagining his reaction, she thinks he might believe this is another world. Determined to survive for her family, Mitsuha sets out to find something to eat. She walks through the forest, driven by hunger and exhaustion, until she collapses. A little girl finds her and rushes to her side. Mitsuha later wakes up in an unfamiliar bed, with a silver-haired girl sitting beside her, watching over her with concern. However, Mitsuha struggles to understand what the girl is saying. Despite the language barrier, she manages to thank her for saving her life and taking care of her. Collette smiles warmly in response. Collette and her mother then bring Mitsuha food, and she feels a surge of gratitude and relief. Mitsuha eats quickly and notices that her hand injury has healed. She tries to ask Collette how long she has been there, but Collette doesn't understand. Deciding to introduce herself, Mitsuha gestures and says her name. Colette's face lights up with understanding, and, overwhelmed with excitement, she hugs Mitsuha tightly. While they're in the room, a man comes home and Collette rushes to hug him. Mitsuha assumes he's her father. After greeting him, Collette and her mother leave Mitsuha to rest. Exhausted, Mitsuha lies down and falls asleep. The next day, she wakes up and takes a walk around the village to explore her new surroundings. Collette spots Mitsuha and approaches her. Mitsuha reassures her that she's feeling fine and tries to perform a gymnastic move, but ends up falling, which makes both girls laugh. Remembering seeing Collette collecting edible plants, Mitsuha decides to offer her help. As they work together, Mitsuha imagines Onii telling her what it's like to look after a little sister. She's gradually picking up on Colette's language, and suddenly she spots a pack of wolves and worries about keeping Collette safe. Noticing a nearby tree, she helps Collette climb it, but her own climbing skills are lacking. She takes off running instead. Fear grips her as she doesn't want to die. She trips over a rock and falls, grabbing a nearby stone just as a wolf leaps toward her. Desperately, Mitsuha screams Onii's name, and in a miraculous moment, her body vanishes. Mitsuha opens her eyes only to find herself in her brother's room, still clutching the rock. Determined to save Collette, she gathers several weapons from her house and teleports back to the alternate world. There, she battles the wolves, killing 2 while the rest flee. Exhausted, she collapses and falls unconscious. She finds herself floating in a vast, empty space and is confronted by a lucky cat statue her brother gave her. The statue explains that her powerful will to live when she fell off the cliff siphoned some of its energy. As a result, now she has the ability to travel between worlds and heal any injury. The statue grants her these powers and promises to visit again before departing. It also gives her the ability to understand the language of the alternate world. When Mitsuha regains consciousness, she's relieved to see Collette, who expresses her deep worry that Mitsuha might never wake up. Mitsuha is thrilled to find that she can now understand Colette's words. Colette's father, grateful for Mitsuha's bravery, rewards her with gold for saving his daughter. Mitsuha realizes she can use her new powers to accumulate wealth in both worlds. Determined, she sets a goal to amass a fortune of 2 billion yen, roughly 80,000 gold coins, to retire comfortably in both realms. At night, Mitsuha sits down with Collette and explains that she traveled from her country with friends by boat, but they were separated during their journey. After wandering for a few days, she finally came across Collette. Hearing about Mitsuha's difficult journey, Collette becomes emotional and hugs her tightly. The next morning, Mitsuha greets Tobias and watches as he struggles to start a fire. This observation leads her to realize that lighters and matches in this world might be considered magical items. After leaving the local restroom, she encounters villagers who greet her as the wolf-slaying hero and ask if her wounds have healed. Mitsuha takes the opportunity to gather information about the area. She learns about the feudal lord, Klaus von Bozes, who is known to be a good man. Deciding that the royal capital would be the best place to pursue her fortune, Mitsuha resolves to make her way there. A villager informs Mitsuha that a passenger wagon will set off for the town the following morning, and the journey to the capital will take 7 days. Collette is upset about Mitsuha leaving, but Mitsuha reassures her that she will return one day. The next morning, Collette and her parents accompany Mitsuha to the wagon, and they bid each other a heartfelt goodbye. During the ride, Mitsuha realizes she hasn't showered in a while and must smell unpleasant. She asks the rider to stop the wagon for a moment, explaining that she promised some friends that she would meet them by a tree in the field. The rider agrees to her request. Moments later, Mitsuha teleports back to her house, where she takes a long, refreshing bath. She converts all her assets into cash and then travels to South America to meet with Wolf Fang, who is a private military company. There, she purchases firearms and undergoes training in shooting and self-defense. In addition, she negotiates with the company's commander to exchange gold coins from the alternate world for money. Mitsuha also conducts thorough research on medieval feudal societies to identify which products would be most profitable to buy and sell, aiming to maximize her earnings and ensure a successful venture. Feeling prepared, Mitsuha teleports back to the alternate world with a motorcycle. She avoids being seen by a group of villagers and eventually arrives in the village ruled by Klaus von Bosas. Mitsuha arrives at the gate of Count Bosas' estate and asks the guards if she can speak with the Count. They look confused and ask if she has a letter of invitation or any official engagement. When she explains that she doesn't, they inform her that they cannot let her through. As she sits by the fountain, reflecting on the situation, a carriage passes by. She inquires with a nearby villager about it, and the woman tells her that the Count's sons are inside the carriage. The villager also mentions that the Count's sons often come out to survey the domain. Mitsuha seizes this opportunity. She teleports to the road where the carriage will be passing on its way back to the manor and waits. As the carriage approaches, she uses firecrackers to startle the horses and then collapses as if she's been hit by the carriage. The Count's sons quickly disembark and rush over, alarmed and concerned. The Count's sons take Mitsuha to the country manor, and her plan works perfectly. While lying in bed, she overhears Count Klaus von Bosas instructing his servant to fetch a doctor to check on her. Mitsuha opens her eyes and reassures him that it's not necessary. Klaus apologizes for the incident, and Mitsuha feels fortunate and pleased with his kindness. They allow her to rest. Later, during dinner with the family, Mitsuha appears and introduces herself and lies that she's coming from the distant nation of Japan. Klaus is intrigued by her elegant attire, which he has never seen before, and assumes she must be a noble from a foreign land. He invites her to join them at the table and inquires about the purpose of her visit to their town while noting that Mitsuha appears to be alone. Klaus listens as she explains that during her journey, they were attacked by wild animals, causing her to become separated from her companions. She adds that the people of his land came to her aid, and she wanted to express her gratitude to the Lord for their kindness. Mitsuha explains that she had intended to inform the Lord of his subjects' goodwill, but was initially turned away when she visited earlier. Klaus is pleased to hear her praise and appreciates the recognition in front of his children. Mitsuha offers Klaus a gift from her homeland as a token of her gratitude. When Klaus examines the item, he is unsure of what it is. Mitsuha explains that it is a multi-purpose folding knife and demonstrates how it works. Klaus and his family are visibly impressed by the intricate design and functionality of the knife. He then asks about her plans, and Mitsuha mentions that she intends to head directly to the royal capital. Klaus insists that she cannot travel at night, arguing that it is already getting dark. He informs her that a carriage will depart for the royal capital the following morning and suggests he take it instead for her safety. Her face reddens in embarrassment as she admits that she cannot afford the carriage fees. Klaus insists that she stay the night and they can discuss the matter further in the morning. Grateful for his kindness, Mitsuha agrees. During dinner at Klaus's mansion, she meets his family, his wife Iris and their children, Alexis, Theodore, and Beatrice. Mitsuha explains that she left her homeland to allow her younger brother to inherit without contest, and she plans to support herself as a merchant, starting with the sale of a medium-quality pearl necklace that was left for her by her mother. Iris is astonished and tells her that pearls are so rare in their land that an entire necklace would be considered a national treasure, worth more than any amount of gold. Mitsuha explains that she just needs money for survival, rather than a beautiful necklace that has no practical use. She offers to sell the necklace to Iris, explaining that Iris reminds her of her own mother. In exchange, she needs enough money to open a shop in the royal capital. Iris, moved by her story, hugs Mitsuha warmly. Theodore then asks if Mitsuha has anything else similar to the knife that she gave to his father. Mitsuha responds that she has a regular folding knife and lifts her dress slightly to retrieve it from a garter around her thigh. This causes everyone to blush and feel embarrassed. Mitsuha playfully claims that her pose is part of the knife arts, and that women in her country carry knives in such a manner. She also sells Alexis and Theodore pocket knives, further impressing the family with her innovative business sense. The family's admiration and kindness remind Mitsuha of her own parents and brother, and she tears up. They comfort her, offering her support and warmth. The next day, Klaus arranges for her to travel to the capital in his carriage, providing her with a letter of official sponsorship and an invitation to visit them again anytime. Mitsuha arrives at the royal capital, opens a shop, and fills it with Japanese products. However, after 2 days, her offerings remain largely ignored as they are too unfamiliar for the locals. 3 girls enter her shop, puzzled by the exotic items on display. Mitsuha invites them to stay for a demonstration of her shampoo and offers lunch. The girls are delighted with the shampoo and body wash and decide to buy a bottle of each to share together due to their high price. As they witness the showers, gas cooker, and various meals being prepared from a single pot, they start to worry that Mitsuha might be a witch. However, when they taste the lunch she serves, they are thoroughly impressed by its deliciousness. Before they leave, Mitsuha gives them complimentary chocolates as a souvenir, further charming them with her hospitality. The girls decide to share the chocolates with their head chef, Marcel. When he tastes one, he is amazed and curious about the confection. They relay the story of Mitsuha's shop and the lunch they had, including the fresh fish, which intrigues their employers. The tale of fresh fish, despite being a 10-day journey from the ocean, piques their interest so much that they insist that Marcel investigate. The next day, Marcel visits Mitsuha's shop, carefully examining her cooking items. He inquires about the fish scalers and questions why she is selling them, given that fresh fish would be impossible to obtain in a town so far from the sea. Mitsuha realizes her mistake in stocking fresh fish, understanding that it's not practical for their location. Mitsuha demonstrates how to use some of the items Marcel is considering and sells him a professional chef's knife. Marcel then mentions that Lady Adelaide's debutante ball is approaching, which means that in this society, aristocratic women make their debuts into society at the age of 15 and must be a resounding success. He requests Mitsuha's help in providing fresh fish to impress the noble guests. Seeing a significant opportunity for profit, Mitsuha agrees to cater the entire ball. The next day, Marcel, Viscount Rainer, and his daughter Adelaide arrive at Mitsuha's shop. She warmly welcomes them and presents a variety of dishes for them to sample. They are thoroughly impressed by the quality and taste of the food. Viscount Rainer expresses his desire to contract Mitsuha's services, outlining that the contract will involve her providing ingredients and cooking instructions. Mitsuha counters with a proposal of her own. While she is willing to handle the cooking, she insists on a more comprehensive role. She wants to oversee not just the cuisine, but also the dress design, performance directions, and all other aspects of the event. Rainer and his daughter agree. Adelaide purchases her high-quality shampoo and body wash. Over the following days, Mitsuha devotes her time to teaching Marcel recipes tailored for party foods with a particular focus on fresh fish. She meticulously guides him and his team through each recipe. When it comes to addressing Adelaide's dress, Mitsuha blindfolds and teleports Adelaide to a renowned professional dressmaker, ensuring she receives top-notch service and a beautifully crafted gown. The ball begins and Adelaide makes a stunning entrance in an exquisite dress that dazzles with special effects projected from Mitsuha's laptop. The room is abuzz with admiration. Later, Mitsuha panics when she unexpectedly encounters Klaus and Iris. They have brought their sons, Alexis and Theodore, as potential suitors for Adelaide. Iris, initially concerned when Mitsuha's shop was closed, is relieved to see her now and realizes it was simply due to the busy preparations for the ball. As the night progresses, a new problem arises, which is the guests have enjoyed the fish dishes so much that the kitchen runs out of them entirely. Faced with the risk of an embarrassing situation, Mitsuha quickly devises a plan. To buy Marcel some time to prepare a fresh batch, she swiftly transitions to serving a lavish array of desserts, including biscuits, sweets, cake, and an assortment of alcohol. The guests are delighted with the sweet treats, and the distraction buys Marcel the time he needs to prepare a substantial serving of French fries. Mitsuha manages to maintain the event's high standards. The ball is a success. Mitsuha's creations, which have already left a lasting impression, are now in high demand. Her food becomes the talk of noble society, with the unique and refined flavors of her dishes being hailed as exceptional. Her cuisine gains a reputation and is soon referred to as Yamano-style cuisine. The next day, the chef for Baron Turk barges into Mitsuha's store, demanding fresh fish because the Baron is no longer satisfied with his cooking. Mitsuha calmly explains that she only provides fish on special order. The chef's frustration escalates, and he nearly attacks her. Iris and Klaus arrive on time and intervene, promising to report his behavior to the Baron. Iris then insists on taking Mitsuha back to their home for dinner, noting that she hasn't visited in weeks. There, Beatrice is happy to see Mitsuha and insists that she cater her debutante ball in 2 years' time. Klaus, captivated by both the food and the special effects Mitsuha uses, expresses his admiration and curiosity. When Klaus presses Mitsuha about the origins of her unique ingredients, she is forced to come up with a story. She explains that her friends use fast-moving boats to transport the products and smuggle them into the city. In her room, Mitsuha is taken aback when Beatrice reveals that in their society, girls become engaged at 10 years old and are married by 15. This cultural norm is a surprising twist to Mitsuha. As a high school graduate, Mitsuha is already older than the typical age for marriage in this society. When Beatrice asks about the type of man Mitsuha would marry, Mitsuha realizes that Beatrice's questions are likely part of a scheme by her own family to investigate a potential suitor and gain more information about her. Mitsuha devises a plan. She insists that Beatrice spread false information about her preference and intentions, threatening to cancel her ball if Beatrice does not comply. Beatrice reluctantly agrees, helping Mitsuha protect her personal plans from her family's prying eyes. Days later, a wanted murderer hides out in her shop seeking refuge. A hunter soon arrives in pursuit of the fugitive. Mitsuha uses a spray bottle to blind him, creating an opportunity for the hunter and his team to catch him. As the hunter and his 3 companions leave with the killer, Mitsuha follows them concerned because the fugitive still has a knife that he stole from her shop. The hunter and his team, who turn out to be members of the Mercenary Guild, successfully capture the killer. Intrigued by the presence of the Mercenary Guild and seeing potential for exciting RPG-style experiences, Mitsuha seizes the opportunity. She approaches the mercenaries, inquiring if she can hire them for a job. Mitsuha invites the mercenaries into her store and serves them green tea. Each introduces themselves: Sven, the swordsman; Zepp, the spearsman; Grit, the swordswoman; and Ilse, the archer. Mitsuha requests their assistance for a hunting trip and to serve as her bodyguards during the mission. The mercenaries agree. Later, Mitsuha teleports to her original world to purchase modern camping equipment and a crossbow. When the trip begins, she learns that mercenaries are currently struggling to find work, with many turning to banditry as a means of survival. The group is amazed by Mitsuha's high-tech camping gear, including her tent, lighter, and canned soup. This experience sparks an idea for Mitsuha. She considers providing supplies in bulk to the guild to improve their working conditions. During the trip, Mitsuha tries to bathe while wearing a bikini, but Grit and Ilse scold her, mistaking the bikini for underwear since such garments do not exist in their world. They regard her as a nudist, causing Mitsuha some embarrassment. A boar attacks Mitsuha, but she manages to kill it with her pistol. To keep her use of firearms a secret, she inserts crossbow bolts into the bullet holes. The mercenaries remain unaware of her modern weaponry. Upon returning home, Mitsuha uses a swimsuit magazine to demonstrate that bikinis are normal in her world. The mercenaries are astonished by the photographs. Zepp expresses a desire to buy the magazine, but Mitsuha refuses to sell it, and Grit quickly silences him. Curious about another potential venture, Mitsuha attempts to create art by teleporting the shapes of famous statues out of solid rock. However, none of the statues turn out as she hopes. She manages to sell them as demon statues meant to repel evil spirits, but she feels a lack of accomplishment due to her lack of artistic skill. A young girl visits Mitsuha's shop, and Mitsuha suspects that she might be a princess due to her refined demeanor. Shortly after, a group of thugs burst in and kidnap Sabine, the princess, for human trafficking. Mitsuha uses a stun gun to subdue one of her kidnappers and brandishing a real gun to scare off the others. The commotion draws the attention of the castle guards, who arrest the thugs and scold Sabine for sneaking away. The king, grateful for Mitsuha's bravery, invites her to the castle. He plans to thank her formally and lecture Sabine for her unauthorized excursion. Mitsuha, the messenger of lightning, uses the opportunity to observe that both the king and his chancellor, Sar, struggle with poor vision. She sells them reading glasses, subtly making it clear that she cannot be bribed or manipulated into serving their personal interests. The king is impressed with her integrity but decides to have her investigated nonetheless. Days later, Nelson Adler, owner of the Adler Trading Company, arrives with a royal business warrant and threatens Mitsuha to surrender her shop and herself. Mitsuha agrees to meet him later to sign the documents but arranges for Sabine and Sar to be present at the meeting. When Nelson, rude and lecherous, attempts to assert his control over Sabine, unaware of her true identity as a princess, Sar is outraged. He immediately confiscates Nelson's royal warrant and warns that all other trading companies against interfering with Mitsuha. The king is pleased with Mitsuha's maneuvering, which exposes and allows him to prosecute the corrupt Adler Trading Company, rumored to be involved in human trafficking. The king also severs ties with Nelson, who is forced into disgraceful retirement. The company's members, who are already under suspicion, commit suicide in custody to avoid interrogation. Meanwhile, Mitsuha becomes wealthy from selling reading glasses to older men with poor vision and forms a close friendship with Sabine, who is secretly introduced to television. The shop becomes a place of refuge and innovation. One day, a desperate woman arrives seeking Mitsuha's help. The woman, named Alina, reveals that she works at a diner called Paradise Restaurant, owned by her parents Bernd and Stella. Recently, the son of a wealthy man tried to seduce her, but she refused as she is in love with her father's apprentice, Anel. Since then, their chef has left to work for the wealthy man, and Bernd has been beaten by thugs. Sensing a deeper conspiracy, Mitsuha agrees to help. Mitsuha trains Alina and Anel in Yamano cuisine, which, due to its rarity, can be sold at a premium. She hires Grit and Ilsa as waitresses, with Sabine offering to join in for the fun. The rich man, his son, and Bernd's former chef then conspire to have Bernd arrested for allegedly selling fake Yamano cuisine. They even ask Chef Marcel to confirm the fraud. However, Marcel verifies that the cuisine is indeed authentic, as Mitsuha is present to vouch for it. By coincidence, Iris and Klaus visit the diner to see Mitsuha, and the king arrives looking for Sabine. With their assistance, the conspirators are exposed as the thugs who assaulted Bernd and are promptly arrested. Mitsuha also helps bring Anel and Alina closer together, facilitating their relationship. After covering all expenses, Mitsuha's profit amounts to a modest 1 gold. Nonetheless, she finds immense satisfaction in the good she's done. She later writes a letter to Collette, updating her on the recent events. Meanwhile, a monster horde begins to appear in the countryside. Mitsuha receives a text from the captain about a big cookout. When she arrives, she brings rabbits she has hunted. They grill the rabbits, and the captain is impressed by how they taste. He tells her that she can sell them. For a few days, Mitsuha has had no customers. When 2 adventurers finally walk into her shop, she's thrilled. One orders a tent, and the other wants an insulation mat. Mitsuha suggests they buy both, but one of them says it's beyond their budget. She agrees to sell both items on the condition that they bring other guild members with them the next time they visit. Mitsuha starts offering discounts to adventurers who refer others to her shop, and the adventurers agree to the deal. The king is disappointed that Czar's investigation into Mitsuha reveals nothing about her past, but he is relieved that she is not a threat to the kingdom. Later, Sabine visits Mitsuha with news that the king wants her at the palace for an important matter. The king warns that the neighboring Alder Empire is preparing to invade, and several traitorous nobles have made it difficult to gather troops for the kingdom's defense. Despite the danger, Mitsuha insists on staying. He agrees to her decision. Czar involves her in the Council of War. While they discuss the situation, Alexis approaches Mitsuha from behind. She reacts instinctively, attacking him and warning him not to sneak up on her. At that moment, an assassin disguised as a knight tries to kill Commander Marquise Eibelinger. Mitsuha, who had been wary of the assassin, and Alexis rush to intervene. Mitsuha survives and manages to kill the assassin with her pistol, but Alexis is severely injured. In a fit of anger and desperation, Mitsuha teleports Alexis to her world for life-saving modern surgery. She then reveals her secret to Wolf Fang's commander, hiring his entire army to fight in her world. Skeptical, the captain demands proof. Mitsuha transports him and one of his army trucks to her world, arriving just in time to save refugees fleeing from goblins who are inexplicably unharmed by bullets. The refugees are in a panic, unable to cross the river as the goblins close in. Mitsuha fires at the goblins, but her attempts are unsuccessful. The captain realizes that aiming for the goblin's head is the key to killing them. However, they are still too many to handle. Mitsuha asks the captain to hold them off for 2 more minutes. She teleports back to her world and quickly retrieves weapons. Returning to the scene, she spreads newspapers on the ground and sets them ablaze, then uses fireworks to create a chaotic display. The combination of fire and explosions terrifies the goblins and drives them away, ultimately killing all of them. Mitsuha reassures the refugees that they are safe now, and they express their deep gratitude for her help. The captain agrees that the entire Wolffang company will fight as paid mercenaries. Meanwhile, the army and monsters continue to invade towns and cities, while the king is busy assembling his soldiers in the capital. Collette is worried and concerned about Mitsuha's well-being. Back in Mitsuha's world, the captain assembles his 61 soldiers who are equipped with advanced gear. Mitsuha addresses them in a speech, emphasizing that the time for war has come. She stresses their mission is to protect the citizens and the capital. Mitsuha then announces that she will step aside for 10 minutes, giving anyone who does not wish to join the battle the opportunity to leave. When Mitsuha returns, she finds that no one has left. All are ready to head to the battlefield. They teleport there. During the war council, a frightened guard bursts in, reporting that monsters have breached the yard. The king and his men rush outside to investigate, discovering the vehicles of Mitsuha's assembled soldiers. Mitsuha informs the king of her plan to support them in the war. The kingdom, impressed and relieved, hails her by her nickname, Messenger of Lightning, in recognition of her crucial role and bravery. Count Torsten von Lotz, a nobleman from the Alder Empire, approaches confidently. Mitsuha, thinking ahead, tells one of her soldiers to shoot him in the arm so that they can spare some of their soldiers to treat him. Mitsuha's team quickly targets the enemy's leaders and monster handlers, causing confusion among the inexperienced conscripted soldiers. As chaos breaks out, they release the monsters, making the situation even worse during the retreat. The enemy commander, still refusing to surrender, reveals the Alder Empire's secret weapon: dragons. The battle hits a high point when the Empire's flying wyvern squad is taken down by the armored truck of Wolffang. The truck easily takes out the wyverns, giving Mitsuha's side a big advantage. A large, ancient dragon approaches them, however. Mitsuha uses drones with holographic projectors and her world-shifting powers to disorient the dragon. She then directs the Wolffang squad to strike. As the dragon, growing increasingly agitated, prepares to exhale fire, Mitsuha fires into its open mouth, landing a devastating hit. The wounded dragon, forced to retreat, crashes to the ground, appearing to be dead. With the dragon vanquished, the enemy forces quickly turn and flee. Mitsuha allows the Wolffang captain to take a dragon's fang as a trophy before sending them back to their own world. Meanwhile, Eiblinger's forces continue their pursuit of the retreating enemy. Later, Mitsuha visits the king, who expresses his gratitude. As they talk, Sabine bursts in, hugging Mitsuha tightly and expressing her relief and happiness that Mitsuha is safe. Returning to her store, Mitsuha discovers a letter from Collette, who is worried about her. Shortly after, Sabine arrives with another letter, this one an invitation to the castle. At the castle, Mitsuha is honored with a reward. She successfully negotiates a substantial payment for the mercenaries from the gathered nobles and is granted citizenship and the title of Viscountess. When she visits the captain, Mitsuha learns that Wolffang has sold the dragon's fang to a researcher, earning a significant profit. She also returns Alexis, who has fully recovered, to the kingdom. With business slow due to the ongoing war, Mitsuha decides to close her store and relocate to her new territory to resume her retirement plans. She invites Collette to serve as her retainer while Sabine is unable to accompany her due to the soldiers' restrictions. Mitsuha is now ready to start a new chapter in her life. Thanks so much for listening to today's recap. Hey guys, thank you so much for your continued support. If you want to show us exactly how much you like us, then please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when the new stuff comes out. Hey, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for today. Bye.